tells him, we have a dozen rangers out here, the dogs, and even ghosts. No one's going to hurt you. Go on and look. It's the first look that's the hardest. The first cut is the deepest.
I'm so thrilled that just happened.
I'm not. Anyway. Heyo! Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Brotherhood Without Manners, your favorite full spoiler review podcast of George R.R. Martin's A Song of Ice and Fire series, starting with the Game of Thrones. As always, I'm your host Zach, sitting here not at all pleased with my shenanigans is my brother Nate.
I hate you so much.
You know,
I was having a great day. I'm still having a
You
great
still
day.
can. If you allow that to ruin your day, that's a problem with you and not on me. Stop projecting. Thank you. Anyway, we read Game of Thrones here, and then we talk about it because we like it.
Yeah, so if you joined us last episode, thanks for coming back. If you're new, welcome.
What up?
Hopefully you know the books, or else you're getting it ruined.
You missed a couple. You missed a couple chapters.
You jumped ahead.
So you should. You should.
But if you want to just listen, whatever.
Yeah.
Do your thing, man.
We're good background noise. I see you over there doing the dishes. You're killing it.
So last episode we read Sansa 4, I believe.
4.
And she wrote a couple letters.
She wrote some letters.
And those letters were forcing her, or requesting that her family...
Yeah, Sansa is now effectively a prisoner of war. Her father was accused of treason, obviously, and she is dealing with the repercussions because we found out that she is the one who told the queen of Ned Stark's plan to flee the city with his children.
She has completely forgotten about her sister Arya, who was actually the chapter just before her, so we actually know more about her situation than Sansa does, which is nothing that's going to end from this point on.
And so, yeah, Sansa just keeps getting teased with this prospect of marrying Joffrey, marrying the now king. And so she indeed does end up writing some letters to her family, basically asking them to keep the peace, bend the knee, and swear fealty. And when she marries Joffrey, she will be able to barter for Lord Eddard's safety. And so we pick up this episode with Jon 7. But
the next
before we
child.
do get into Jon 7, we had some correspondence recently.
Write-ins.
And so we want to say a very happy belated birthday to Julian. From France.
What up?
And Julian wrote us actually on his birthday, and so we were very excited about that, and just mentioned that he had been binge listening to the podcast and still had Arya 4 and Sansa 4 left to enjoy.
Which we just, recapped, so he's catching up soon.
And as a longtime fan of the TV show, he's been watching right along since the beginning of Season 3, so he got his Red Wedding holy shit moment, spoiler-free.
Hell yeah, man. That's not something a lot of people can say these days.
But, however, he was hooked as soon as Jaime pushed Bran out the window. Anyway, he had been enjoying the show season after season, including Season 6. Season 7 left him a bit baffled, but, and to be honest about Season 8, he liked the first 2 episodes and then was hugely disappointed by the third. He thought the stakes weren't respected, even if the tension in the first half of the episode was awesome. And so, I get that.
It's a very valid argument.
Yeah, no, they definitely build it up, and then that was one of the things I was most surprised about, is how little people died in that episode. It was, it was just a few.
It was definitely shocking that there was
less.
And so,
I can totally see that. And
the frustrations there, definitely makes sense.
He did, however, he was okay with Arya proving that she did struggle all those seasons for a big purpose. And he said he didn't expect much from the episodes, but he enjoyed episode 4, and then he spoiled himself with the famous Reddit thread.
Yeah.
And so he loved the ending with the Starks, the big montage, the music. He really enjoyed it, and it'll always leave a bitter taste in his mouth that the 2 seasons were a bit rushed and sometimes inconsistent, but Game of Thrones definitely is still one of his favorite shows ever.
So a couple quick points there. I'm thrilled that you at least found some justification for Arya there. That's cool.
Yeah.
It would suck to, especially such a badass character, to lose, the feels.
I like
for
that you're taking the show as a whole.
But then, I'm super thrilled that you did enjoy the end part there, at least that Stark montage. That was super uplifting for me. And so if you at least found something from it, that's cool. And it's great that you're not letting it destroy your whole vision of the rest of the series, which for the most part, as far as I've seen, most fans didn't let it ruin the rest of the show. The parts that they did enjoy, they're just not happy with certain parts of the ends. And so to each their own, but thanks for sharing that part with us.
Yeah,
That's super
so
awesome.
he goes on and says that the hype around Season 8 got him listening to lots of podcasts, French ones and some English-speaking ones. And so his job allows him to have a lot of time to pass the time with these podcasts. So those got him curious, and he took the challenge after a few days after Game of Thrones Season 8 ended to buy and read the books. And he bought them in English.
Yo, mad respect. Like, to buy them in a language that you're just, not... It's your second language. It just is intimidating for me because I know I have trouble with foreign languages in general.
And so the fact that you go on to say that you really enjoyed us, and we do in fact know that we were a bit messy at first, and mainly that was just our excitement shining through. This podcast has become both of our baby, and we both really are just excited with each chapter because we talk about it when we finish notes. We got to shut the fuck up because we got to save it for on air because we're gonna ruin it. It's such a good chapter, and so we really, really, really enjoy the fact that you enjoy listening to us talk about it, and
all
if
the
we
shit talking
are able to help you in any way in the analytical process or in the vocabulary process, helping to maybe understand some English vocabulary,
that's more than we ever could have hoped to get from this podcast.
That's the most gratifying thing I've ever heard.
Thank you for letting us be a part of that. That's just super awesome for us.
And you said you like the inductees thing. You absolutely did spell it right, by the way. And your interactivity is something we look forward to in the future. So I believe you said you're all caught up. Send us some inductees for Danny. And I know you said you're moving on to Clash pretty soon. But
even if you wanted to do a quick perusal, a reminder, by all means, hit us up with chapters you've read, any thoughts you have.
Or we will, for book one, we'll probably be doing a general wrap-up series. If you wanted to send an inductee for the book as a whole, you could do that. Or start sending us your Clash of Kings one. And we'll read the thoughts, and we'll hold on to them until we record those episodes. And then we'll be glad to throw you on. But
100% have you on for those. So.
We absolutely enjoy having anyone listen, especially international, and especially assisting when you took such a bold challenge to read the book in a different language. So, Julian, thank you. We are working on a plan to sort out our social media bullshit. So, we hear you loud and clear, my friend. Anyway, happy belated birthday. Thank you for writing in.
Valor Morgulus.
Valor Morgulus. Anyway,
we also got some correspondence from the Silent Sisters, Not So Silent Sisters, but we'll go over their stuff as we reach those things as we generally do.
Yeah, they got some stuff to say about angsty Jon Snow.
Bring up some of your inductees at the end as we typically do. So, with not a further ounce of ado, John 7, and we open with the men of the Night's Watch gathered in the haunted forest.
"Oh, Thor," Jeremy Riker is saying, as he nudges one of the corpses that they have stumbled upon. The other one was Joffrey Flowers. He turns the corpse over with his foot. The dead white face stares up at them with blue eyes. These were Benjen Stark's men.
So, I have a lot of thoughts about these bodies here that I'm going to point out more heavily as we get through the chapter and some explanations, but do you think that they're wights here already?
Okay, so I have quite a few thoughts about these things, and that was the question that I kept asking myself when I was reading this part, is are they whited and capable of movement and killing now, and they're just buying their time?
Right, yeah.
Or is it because, as far as we're told, there's magic in the wall?
Well, there's another point that's made as well, where you start hearing, and I start thinking if it has anything to do with again, that's why we'll get into that part further, but I just wanted to give you a quick
initially I would say I do not think they are capable of standing in movement and killing now.
I do. You do. And I'll explain
why
as we get there.
All right, cool.
So John is thinking about how he begged Uncle Ben to take him along on his next ranging the last time he saw him. And he thinks to himself, gods, I was such a green boy. If he had taken me, it might be me laying here.
Indeed.
And I still think he's green as fuck, but at least he's aware of the fact now that he was dumb as shit.
One of John's, to me, biggest redeeming qualities in the first book is that he does become very self-aware. even when he's acting stupid, he kind of becomes aware of it relatively quickly.
Yeah,
He does have the right of it when he says that bastards have to grow up quicker than the others, and on the wall, you definitely have to grow up quicker. So he does. So when it's not like Sansa for me with Jon, where Jon can be ignorant, but
then he turns it back. He
like,
realizes.
yeah, 3, 4. A chapter, whatever, a couple pages later, Jon will usually be like, yeah, I was being a bitch. Like, right. And so, yeah.
So Lord Mormont climbs down off his horses.
Well, we get that Joffrey's wrist was just a ruin of torn flesh, splintered bone where Ghost had bitten off his hand. His right hand, the hand that Ghost tore off, was now in a jar of vinegar in Maester Aemon's tower, left to be studied and creepy. His left hand, however, was still attached, and that arm was as black as his cloak. So immediately, I think of cold hands.
Yeah, so we also start learning that all the Wights have the black hands.
Yeah, we do.
But yeah, I also thought
they've got the blue eyes.
Of cold hands myself. I thought of just because that's one of his
cold hands. Yeah, the
qualities.
Black cold hands. So yeah, gods have mercy. The old bear mutters as he gets down and hands the reins to Johnny.
This is also part of the reason why I think that they are Wights at this point. Granted, the black extremities is also something I believe is caused by frostbite.
Yeah.
So if you get too damn cold, so it might not necessarily be just, but it's saying that they're already at that point.
I mean, it definitely seems to be symptoms of whiteness.
Yeah. So yeah, he climbs down, hands the reins off to go get a closer
look. The horse is having none of this shit.
Yeah.
It's nervous as hell.
The next thing I think about them, because I think that if they were just corpses, even if they were killed by the Wights, the horses aren't going to be freaking out.
Well, see, I think that's sort of the magic of the Wights, and I think intentionally with this, because this Wight, Othor, is on a fucking mission.
Right.
And so I think it's that to prove, like, to what I was saying earlier, I think they aren't Wights here because they can't be Wights here, because Wights can't yet pass beyond the wall. So I think it's that once they get brought beyond the wall, he gets animated by whatever force, be it the Night King from the show who raises his arms or whatever force there is. They wait until he's beyond the wall, and then they bring him back, and he's able to try to attack the Lord Commander.
That makes sense.
And so I think it's more just the stink of like the others' magic is on these corpses right now. They're very close to turning.
My theory kind of correlates with yours there anyway, and just in a different style. But I still believe that at this point they're Wights.
But so Jon's trying to just fight to keep this horse from bolting. It didn't like the feel of this place, and neither did Jon.
Or the dogs. The regular dogs. They took off. One of those just took off running away from Chet.
Yeah.
And then he starts thinking about how he had the Winterfell dream again the night before.
Yeah.
And everything basically, as he mentions, is the same as before, except in the crypts. He gets down into the crypts, and he's walking down past crypts, and then they start opening, and the dead kings from the past start crawling out of the crypts. That's creepy.
Yeah. He awakes, and in the pitch dark, his heart hammering, and even when Ghost jumps up and starts giving him some good boy loves, that doesn't shake his terror. So he dared not go back to sleep, so he climbed the wall and walked till he saw the light of dawn. It was only a dream. I'm a man of the night's watch, not a frightened boy.
So what do you think it means?
I think
the dead are walking.
The dead are, like the shit's starting to stir here, Johnny boy. You need to figure out your fucking who you are type thing. I think it's entirely meant as a warning that the shit's hitting the fan.
Yeah, so he turns his attention on Samwell Tarly, who's hidden down behind some trees and tucking himself behind the horses, trying not to be seen.
Not looking at the dead man.
He is doing everything he can to not look over there.
And he tells Jon that, I can't look. And Jon tells him, you have to. You're Maester Aemon's eyes out here. You need to tell him what the fuck is up. So Sam says, I'm a coward. But Jon walks over, puts his hand on Sam's shoulder.
Can I just say, Sam, dude, you're fucking out there.
Yeah.
Like, you've already, you've gone beyond the wall. Like, you've already shown you're not as much as a coward.
He keeps saying he's a coward because he's scared in the moment. And that's what he's not realizing, is that there's nothing wrong with being terrified in the moment. You're still there and doing it. Like, a coward would have been like, nah, give it to Chet.
Right.
And so, yeah, Jon puts his hand on his shoulder and tells him, we have a dozen rangers out here, the dogs, and even ghosts. No one's going to hurt you. Go on and look. It's the first look that's the hardest.
The first look
one is the deepest.
I'm so thrilled that just happened.
I'm not. Anyway, so Sam nods and slowly turns his head. His eyes widen as he looks. And yeah, I mean, we're, especially you and I, because we've done the job that you currently have and that I used to do with you. Yeah. But the first time you see a normal person sees or looks upon, especially a scene like this.
Yeah, no.
I think Sam is a very, like, normal, what we as readers would basically be doing, you know? Like, holy shit, with these crazy blue eyes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like, no fucking way. Yes, so Sam is not playing the coward here, and it's a little frustrating how down on himself he is, which is an odd sentence for me to ever say, because I detested Samwell Tarly my first read-through.
I heart Sam.
So, the old bear says that Benjamin Stark had 6 men with him. Where are the others?
I also did real quick want to point out the part where we burst into harmony. The first look is the hardest. Kind of reminded me of Bran when he looked into the heart of winter.
Yeah.
And how it just Bran the Broken, you know. But anyway, back to Jon.
Jeremy Reichard just shakes his head. He don't fucking know where where Benjamin Stark's other 4 men are.
And so, why would he is what I had noted here. Like, this poor fucking guy's going to take
Mormont's
it hard
getting frustrated. Things are spiraling out of control. Like, this is very close to the wall.
But, like, damn, like, because I felt bad for Reichard here. Like, because he's just doing the best he can to fill in for Ben. Like, and nobody expected Ben to go missing.
And Jon notes that Mormont does not look pleased. Mormont is not pleased, Reichard.
I'm not pleased, Reichard.
And that's so... Good. 2 of our brothers butchered in sight of the wall, and your rangers saw nothing.
So it said almost within sight.
Yeah.
So it's like, not like they could just be standing on the wall and seeing it.
Yeah, but Mormont
But I understand what
does indeed make a good point here, because he says, is this what we've fallen to? Do we still sweep these woods? And he points out, this man died with a hunting horn. Am I to believe he died without sounding it? Like... It's a pretty good point.
No, absolutely. Like, he's not making bad points
but
at all.
If it is the others, it's entirely possible he didn't get a chance to sound
Well, that's it. Absolutely. And so poor Reichard's like, we do sweep them, but per your command, we have reduced the number of guards because we don't have enough people.
Yeah, since Benjamin was lost, we've stayed closer to the wall by your own command. And Mormont says, be that as it may, then tell me how they died. And... Sir Jeremy squats by Jaffer and grabs his head by the scalp, and the thin hair comes out between his fingers, and Jaffer curses and shoves the head back, and when he does, it shows the cut in the neck that opens up like a mouth, and he says that this was done with an axe.
And then I love this guy. This guy is like, I heart him.
Dywyn.
He's the old forester.
Who can sniff and just tell what's going on.
He knows, and so he points out that it's not unlike the axe usually carried by Othor. John's
feeling sick.
Yeah, he's feeling nauseous looking at it, which, again, having seen those kinds of things... I don't blame him. Like, I understand.
Well, like, no, I think it's mainly the moment where, like, the neck parts and opens, and he can look in and see the gross.
The gore is the part where he's like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
Like, whoa.
And so he makes himself look at the second body, and it says that Othor was a big, ugly man, and thus he made a big, ugly corpse. And he had no axe wounds, but Jon remembers Othor singing and being bawdy on the way out when he rode out with Benjen, and Jon thinks to himself that he's singing no songs now.
Dang.
Which is just a dark line.
So then they bring up the Black Hands again, and part of me was thinking that the attention to the Black Hands is also going to kind of foreshadow that Jon's hand is going to be, at the end of the chapter, he's going to burn it, and usually you burn something black to a crisp, it's going to... And so kind of showing that, you know, is the way he's looking at it and noticing it each time, and then his hand's going to be jacked up.
So I know as well that Samwell Tarly will point it out that there isn't as much blood at this scene as if they were killed here, but Jaffer's wounds, especially when they're described, made me curious because it says that blood decorated his wounds, breast, groin, and throat, but his eyes were open, blue as sapphires. Breast, the heart... groin,
right,
throat. Like, to me, it just screams whitewash. Like, just quick, one, three. Like, just in, and just dropped. Like, that's why his entire garment isn't just drenched in blood.
Right.
It's just these 3 quick pierces. He bled out and died real quick. And
barely, not even bled out. He stopped bleeding.
Well, that's what
his heart stopped
it
working
just
immediately.
screams efficiency to me.
Yeah, which is what we've learned
killed.
in the little we've gained from them since the book started. That's what they do. They're efficient. They kill. Like when they circled Raymore Royce at the end, it was they were toying with him, and then when it was time to kill, boom, 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 done. The end. And
that's why when Sir Jeremy Riker suggests wildlings, Mormont and I both scoffed. And Mormont says, "Man's raider, this close to the wall." And then we get the line, Jon could have told them. They knew. He knew. Oh, he knew. They all knew. But no one would say the words. The others. There was only a story, though. You got something?
Just... You know nothing, Jon Snow.
If they ever lived, they've been gone for 8,000 years. But Jon feels foolish at the thought. He's a brother of the Night's Watch, not a child at old Nan's feet with Bran and Arya and Rickon.
But then Mormont snorts at the thought of wildlings, which is, oh shit, the Lord Commander's thinking...
Well, I mean, and again, if the efficiency of the kills, like wildlings use axes, they use crude weapons. Yeah, they're gonna hack off,
and they wouldn't have left any of the armor. So they're gonna utilize what they can.
So
he says if it were wildlings, Ben Stark would have come back, rallied the troops, gone out and ran them off, killing them,
and brought me back their heads.
Like Ben Stark wouldn't have had any issues with wildlings.
Ever the realist.
Unless he were slain as well, is what Sir Jeremy says.
I mean, that's an entirely valid point.
And those words cut Jon deep.
See, like that, I actually get I love Old Bear. I adore Old Bear, but I get frustrated with him here because him and Jon both put Benjamin Stark on this pedestal like he's fucking Superman flying around north of the wall.
Yeah, and he's a good ranger and all, but what gives him this...
Sir Jeremy Riker is right. Like, what if it was wildlings and they got the drop on him in his party?
Exactly.
Like, Benjen could have been slain. I understand he's a good fighter and a good ranger and a Stark, but, like, just because... he's angry his men were slaughtered doesn't mean he's going to just immediately shrug off his wounds, come back to Castle Black, and be like, they stabbed me 8 times, but, like, whatever, I'm Wolverine, I don't give a shit, I regenerate. So, the naivety coming out of Mormont there, I sided with Jeremy Riker in this discussion here.
So, Jeremy lays it out. He says, it's been half a year since Ben left. He's had... it's
been half a year since Ben left.
Right.
Jon has been at the wall for probably around 9 months then.
Exactly.
So we get a nice time.
Right. And so he'd wager these were the last survivors of the group, attempting to make it back to the wall. The corpses are still fresh, but they haven't been dead more than a day.
No. Jon started. Jon, like, fuck.
So... all I could think about is that meme with Dwight from The Office where Angela comes walking up and
he's
at
the bar.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's Jon and Samwell Tarly when he's, no.
Sir Riker immediately loses favor with me by saying, I didn't ask for your opinions, boy. And Jon says, let him speak, sir. And Mormont looks from Jon to Sam and back and says, I'll hear him out if the lad has something to say.
I think that he's surprised as well. That he's like, oh shit, this kid's going to say something.
He's got something to say if he's
that
up.
Scared. So I think it's funny that Sam almost has the same in a different way, obviously, a same presence as Roose Bolton.
Yeah, no, he's so quiet that he forces you to listen.
And when people hear him, they're like, oh shit.
If he's speaking up,
we should listen.
It's kind of like when you're in school and the really quiet kid just goes off on someone and everyone's like, yo, this kid's fucking getting it. But, so Mormont tells him, come closer, boy, we can't see you behind those horses. So Sam steps forward and he says, it can't be a day. The blood. And Mormont gets impatient and says, what of it? And Chet, because Chet's here with the dogs, says he soils himself at the sight of it. Ha 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 ha. And all the Rangers laugh, and it's a grand old time. Chet, I feel you, begrudging.
So then he schools the fuck out of them.
Sam continues on. Where Ghost tore off the hand, the stump hasn't bled. My father used to make me watch him dress animals, which, like, fuck Randall Tarley.
Yeah, man.
Forcing this poor kid, but fresh kills, the blood would flow. Later, it would be clotted like jelly. And this man, Sam looks sick as he says it, his blood is crusty and dried up. And so Jon immediately sees what Sam means. And
he also then points out that it's untouched by animals, except by ghosts.
I really like, because Jon says he can see the man's veins in his wrist, iron worms in pale flesh. His blood is black dust. So, like,
it's
frozen.
Yeah,
it's fucking frozen solid. And this is when Tywin sidles closer and takes a whiff and goes, well, they're no pansy flowers, but there's no corpse stink. The boy has the right of it. Sam points out that the corpses aren't rotting. There's no maggots, there's no worms. They're in the forest, but they haven't been eaten or chewed. Only ghosts. Jon just basically says that they're untouched, and Ghost is different. That's why he's willing to be here. The dogs and the horses won't go anywhere near it. And all the rangers kind of look at each other, knowing that Jon and Sam are both telling the truth. So Mormont says, yeah, bring the dogs closer, sort of as like, let's test this hypothesis here. And Chet tries to, but they're yanking, they're whimpering, they're digging in their feet. So he singles out a bitch, and he's trying to drag a bitch over, and she retreats and finally lunges at him. So Chet drops the leash, and she takes off into the trees, just running full tilt. And so Sam goes on saying that this is all wrong. There's blood on the bodies, but none on the ground or anywhere else. And with those terrible wounds, wouldn't there be blood everywhere? Wouldn't the snow be drenched with the blood? And so this is when Tywin, the old forester, speaks up and says maybe they were killed elsewhere and left here as a warning.
Right.
And he points out, this is when he pointed out, Othor didn't have blue eyes. And so this is when Sir Jeremy looks startled and said, neither did Flowers. And he just starts looking over the dead men, and it says a silence fell over the wood. And Jon squats down beside Ghost and starts hearing the burn them from the rangers. Burn the bodies, burn them. And so Mormont shakes his head. Not yet. I want Maester Aemon to take a good look at them first.
He wants the bodies brought to the wall for Aemon to examine. And basically some more commands are easily given and then obeyed.
Yeah, they wrapped the dead men in cloaks, but when Hake and Tywin tried to tie one to a horse, it went mad, rearing and lashing out with its hooves, biting at Ketter as he went to help. No other horse worked any better, so they ended up lashing together crude slings and carried the corpses on foot.
Yeah, so on their way back, Mormont says he wants every single inch of these woods searched for Uncle Ben and his men, dead or alive. Like, under every stump and damn mushroom and rock, look.
And if anyone else is in these goddamn woods, I'll know it. I want to know it. Yeah. Because I'm tired of this shit, man. I've had enough.
And so from that point on, he rode in silence all the way until they got to the wall, to where they exited the woods and could then see the wall. And
it's warm. It's very warm,
yes.
And the wall is weeping copiously. They called it Spirit Summer, the season giving up its ghosts at last. And after this, the cold would come, they said. A long summer meant a long winter, and this summer had lasted 10. And so
the Spirit Summer is a big part of my theory.
Yeah.
I think that because of the Spirit Summer, the very last hot day, they lose their magic from that. And so they're feeling those effects. They're still wights, but they're not wights because of the Spirit Summer. And so they're brought into the tower, into the wall. And as we'll learn, it gets extremely cold. The Spirit Summer's ended.
Yeah, but do the others bring the cold?
Well, maybe they did, but this time they had to have their power back.
Yeah, that's interesting.
After the Spirit Summer ends, then they brought the cold once they had their magic with them again.
Yeah.
At which point, whoever's controlling them, if they're being controlled, would potentially be able to direct at Mormont or however directed and focused they are. So the quote I have to read that goes along with...
So Ghost runs with him for a bit, and then he runs off. He vanishes into the trees.
And without the dire wolf, Jon felt almost naked, which I think is a big... I really like that it's showing and developing that bond this early on.
Yeah, glancing at each shadow with unease.
And unbidden, he thought back on the tales that old Nian used to tell them. And so I'm going to read an excerpt here because it's fucking cool. So when he was a boy at Winterfell, this is a story old Nan used to tell him. He could almost hear her voice again and the click, click, click of her needles. In that darkness, the others came riding, she used to say, dropping her voice lower and lower. Cold and dead they were, and they hated iron and fire and the touch of the sun and every living creature with hot blood in its veins. Holdfasts and cities and kingdoms of men all fell before them as they moved south on pale dead horses, leading hosts of the slain. They fed their dead servants on the flesh of human children. So, I think that ending part is a little bit of old Nan trying to scare the kids to sleep. The rest of that, I think I don't know whether she's just remembering this because she saw this shit because she's fucking crazy old Nan.
She's the one who leads the others.
Right? But I think that's all accurate stuff there, she says on that.
Well, from what we've seen of them in the prologue, it seems pretty fucking accurate. So.
Yeah, no kidding. So she...
And the fact that the man... They hate iron, but Othor's corpse was described as having iron veins.
Yeah,
It's an interesting...
So I also think that him recalling this story, which he's done with, he's going to be back in the present again, but I think him recalling this story is what allows him to finally think maybe the fire will work. Because he thinks of how nothing should... The fire and the heat and the sun.
Yeah.
And so...
When they see the wall, Jon is vastly relieved, and Mormont calls Sam to the front, so Sam rides forward, very frightened. But Mormont says, "You're fat, but not stupid, boy. You did well back there, and you, Snow." And so Sam blushed and stammered out a courtesy, and Jon can't help but smile at Sam attempting to take a compliment.
Yeah.
And so they emerge from the trees, and Ghost runs up, muzzle red with blood. And again, you just get that werewood image.
Do you think Jon was pleased, not because of Sam, because Ghost was now fed and pleased?
Well, like, again, I feel like there's something going on here, because it just feels like Ghost is embodying the werewood with the red muzzle. Like, anytime he's described with the red muzzle, it's just an image of what did he get? What did Ghost go and hunt for? Because last we knew he had the scent of the Wights, and that's what he went after. And so now is it the spirit summer that he's able to hunt or something?
Who knows, yeah.
So...
Yeah, so they get greeted by the one blast of the horn from the men up on top of the wall.
One blast meant one ranger, meant the rangers returning.
Yes, so I wrote down a little quote here that, "I was a ranger for one day at least. Whatever may come, they cannot take that from me." And I just really thought that kind of... It puts into words his resolve throughout the series. This whole, whatever may come, they can't take away from me what I have. Like, I had this at least, this one day of Ranger. I had my father, even though Ned Stark's, well, maybe he'll one day find out Ned's not his father, and he'll be like, well, whatever that means, Ned was still my father growing up, and I still have that. And so just this kind of fortitude that he's building up with that statement.
Go Power Rangers. Anyway, Bowen Marsh is waiting for them at the first gate. We were saying the Ranger a lot.
I get you, all right.
And you said he wanted to be a Ranger, and he was a Ranger for a day, Power Ranger for a day.
I get you. All right.
Megazord.
He'd be the Black Ranger.
He would, with the
he's a
Night's Watch,
yeah.
The crow flying down from the wall. So Bowen Marsh is waiting at the first gate of the tunnel for them, and he says, "My lord, there's been a bird. You must come at once." And Mormont says, "What is it, man?" And curiously, Marsh looks at Jon before answering and says, "Maester Aemon has the letter. He awaits you in your solar." So Mormont says to Jon to see to his horse, and for Sir Jeremy to put the dead men in the storerooms. And so Jon leads the horses back to the stable, aware that people are staring at him. And I got, again, Harry Potter vibes, the Chosen One type thing, where people are like looking at him, but then when he looks, they're like, "Oh, I don't know, I wasn't looking."
And he sees Sir Alliser Thorne half smiling as he crosses the
Yeah,
yard.
he's drilling in the yard.
Fuck that cunt, dude.
And he stops what he's doing to stare at Jon and smile.
Now, granted, we do know that he was a Targ supporter. He was not for Baratheon coming into power, and that's why he's at the wall.
So he detests
So you
Ned.
can absolutely understand why he has this contempt, but fuck you, Alliser Thorne. Fuck you.
Donald Noy stood in the door of the armory and says, "Gods be with you, Snow. Be strong." And Jon thinks there's something wrong.
Jon knows something is wrong, it said.
You know nothing, Jon Snow.
It said Jon knows something is wrong.
So we learned that the dead men were brought to one of the storerooms along the base of the wall, a cold, dark cell chiseled from the ice itself and used to keep meat and grain and beer fresh. So, I think it's interesting. I'm going to just do some skirting here. That this cell is pointed out because at the very end, in a Dance Dragons Full Spoiler Review podcast, Jon Snow will be killed and put, I believe, into one of these cells to keep him
if not
fresh.
this exact same one.
Until Melisandre or whatever, I'm assuming Melisandre resurrects him. And so I just, in this first book, we're getting the cells where Jon could potentially be put as one of these creatures. So anyway, Jon saw to Mormont's horse first, and then his own, and then he sought out his friends, which I really just think is such a telling sentence that at this such a harsh place, he still seeks out his friends.
He wants to go
They're
find
still
his friends. Yeah,
like,
people that he can talk to.
Which is just human nature. Everyone wants to have, people who they can go and see for a friendly face.
Yeah, so there's only Pip in the common room when he gets there. Gren and Toad were up on the watch, out on a watch, doing Night's Watch things, whatever that is for Gren and Pip, Toad, because I forget builders and fucking whatever. But Pip tells him that the king is dead.
And Jon is stunned, thinking that Robert had looked hale and healthy enough when he saw him last. And Jon asks how he can know. And Pip answers that one of the guards had overheard Clytus reading the letter to Maester Aemon. "I'm sorry, Jon," he says. "He was your father's friend, wasn't he?"
Now, this next few lines show how removed Jon is from everything down in King's Landing, because he starts wondering if Joffrey will keep Ned as the hand of the king. And he's like, yeah, probably not. He'll probably, send him home, find his own hand. But then he starts getting hopeful that, hey, that means that the girls will all head home. Maybe I can convince Lord Mormont to let me go visit Arya.
Yeah, get a day pass, go have a picnic, spend the weekend. It'll be chill as hell.
I thought it was cool that the first thing was that he says it would be nice to see Arya smile again.
Yeah. Obviously, we know which sister Jon prefers.
Yeah.
Which sister I prefer.
But then he also says, and to talk to his father.
It's, about a certain manner. And
I will ask him about my mother, he resolved. So he's curious. That it's good. It's good to show that it is on his mind.
It's past. He thinks that it's past time. He knew.
Yeah.
Like he's old enough, and so Hake had said that the dead men were your uncles. Pip says to Jon, kind of pulling him out of his contemplation. Jon says, "Yes, 2 of the 6. Dead a long time, but the bodies are queer. Sam will tell you," as Jon is just tired of thinking about his uncle's men dead, and it's really bumming him out. So, Jon.
Yeah, so Jon pretends that he thinks that Lord Commander Mormont might need his help with something. Mm-hmm. He wants to go talk to Lord Commander and figure out, what's going on with the king and his father.
Yeah, so the brothers on guard eyed him solemnly as he approached, and one of them says that the old bear was in his solar, and he's asking for you. So Jon nods, trying to convince himself he wants fire, or he wants wine. And he's just climbing these steps. And so he enters, and Mormont's bird immediately starts shrieking at him, "Corn!" And so...
To which Mormont tells Jon that the bird is full of shit, and he just ate. Don't listen to him. He tells Jon to bring him a cup of wine, and to pour one for himself.
Yeah, Mormont's seated by the window reading a letter. And so Jon questions for myself, and Mormont looks at him, and Jon immediately picks up that there's pity in those eyes. Jon could taste it. And so Jon pours the drinks, drawing it out as much as he can, because once the drinks are poured, the information is going to be revealed, and he's trying to delay that as much as possible so he doesn't have to face it. So Mormont tells him, "Sit, Drink.
Yeah, and Jon asks if it's his father. And
he remains standing, which I think is important.
Yeah, it's very important.
He just wants to know what the fuck is going on.
No, I wrote down Mormont's speech here in a second, or I've noted to read this out, because the bear tells him it's his father and the king, and he touches the letter. And I should turn to that page now that we're at that spot instead. And he says, "Your father and the king, I won't lie to you, it's grievous news. I never thought to see another king, not at my age, with Robert half my years and strong as a bull. They say the king loved to hunt. The things we love destroy us every time, lad. Remember that. My son loved that young wife of his. Vain woman. If not for her, he would have never thought to sell those poachers." Jon could scarcely follow what he was saying. "My lord, I don't understand. What's happened to my father?"
Bum, bum, bum.
So Mormont's going to yell sit here, which I figure we'll move into.
Yeah, no, but Mormont's getting contemplative here. He jumps from subject to subject, so it's not crazy that Jon wouldn't follow, because at first he's ruminating about the fact that Robert's dead, and he's got this boy king now on the throne. He never thought he'd see that. And then he brings up the fact that the things we love destroy us every time, which is such a telling line for this series. And then he brings up his son Jorah, and
so I put shout out Jorah.
Yeah, him selling him to the poachers. So he's reflecting grand scale, and then he's kind of reflecting personally. And so Mormont says, "I told you to sit and drink," and that's a command, Snow. So Jon does and takes a sip of wine, and he tells him, "Lord Eddard has been imprisoned and is charged with treason."
But my father would never. A traitor.
The claims are he plotted with Robert's brothers to deny Joffrey the throne, and Jon just keeps blabbering. And Mormont says,
I actually did put that Jon says, "My father would never do that." Would he? And so he questions it himself, technically.
Yeah.
But anyway, continue.
Yeah, Mormont says it's not for us to say, we're not there. But Jon insists it's a lie. Had they all gone mad, Eddard Stark would never dishonor himself.
This is a spot I jumped ahead again, my bad.
Would he? And then...
Yeah, because then he thinks of his mother and Ned.
That small little voice, man, that just doesn't shut up. And he fathered a bastard.
How honorable can you be if you father a bastard?
He won't even speak of her.
And so Jon asks what happened. What'll happen to my father? And Mormont tells him he knows a few members of the small council.
And I intend to write a letter.
He's going to write a letter.
I'm going to write a letter.
Well-worded letter. And so he knows Stannis, Barry the Bold, and...
Old bitch Pycelle. So, from his youth, and says, "Whatever your father has or hasn't done, he is a great lord, and should be allowed to take the black and join us here at the wall. God knows we could use one with Lord Eddard's abilities." Lord Eddard's abilities. I'll try that one again without the mush mouth.
Jon knew people named Traitor that were allowed to serve the black, so why not Ned?
Yeah, it's a strange thought, though, Ned Stark up here. It would be uncomfortable because it's monstrous to strip Ned Stark of Winterfell.
Right. Well, I think that, and there's the whole, he left home. This is his college. It'd be like your father joining you in your dorm room. Oh... No, I'm
kind of college.
It's more like he's building he's trying to establish himself.
Do his own thing.
He's already got Uncle Ben's shadow to live in. Now he's got fucking Ned Stark. Shit, kid.
Yes.
I mean, at least he would be able to learn about his mother, but then he might push Ned off the wall or something. Who knows?
So Mormont goes on, "A boy king. I imagine he'll listen to his mother. A shame the dwarf isn't with him now, the lad's uncle. He saw our need when he visited. It was a bad thing, your lady mother taking the imp captive."
And Jon quickly corrects him that she is not his mother. And I love the fact that he's in the Tyrion, he thinks it's my friend.
Yeah, he was a friend.
Why would she do that?
And says if Lord Eddard was killed, Lady Catelyn would be as much to blame as the queen. So Jon is being pretty realistic about that. I mean, as much as it's an unpleasant truth, bias. But it is absolutely a truth. Catelyn is to blame for sort of kicking things off by just kind of ignorantly grabbing Tyrion.
I just again, his awareness of, how decent Tyrion could be.
What of my sisters, my lord, is like, what is this? Like, possibly the 5th or 6th question Jon's asked, but
Yeah, Sansa
this is
still
all
hasn't-
the info dump that, like, he's getting it all at once, so it's understandable. Yeah, what of my sisters, Arya and Sansa? They were with my father. And Mormont says that the letter made no mention of them, but he'll ask when he writes his fucking letters, because he's going to get some info.
He's writing some letters.
He's writing letters.
Dark days and cold nights ahead if ever they needed a strong king. He gives Jon a look and says, I hope you don't plan on doing anything stupid.
He's my father, he wanted to say, but he doesn't, so he makes himself sip some wine. And Mormont says, your duty is here now. Your old life ended when you took the Black. King's Landing is no longer our concern. And so Mormont finishes his wine and tells Jon that he could go. He no longer has any need of him for tonight. And that tomorrow, Jon can help him write the letters. So Jon doesn't remember standing or leaving his solar. The next thing he knew, he was just descending the dour steps thinking, this is my father and sisters. How is this none of my concern?
Right.
And
so that's the teenage angst.
I gave it to Donald Noy, but outside it's the guard who tells him to be strong, boy, the gods are cruel. And Jon realizes that they all fucking know. Like, everybody in it, I'm the last person here to know.
And he wants to say my father is no traitor, but it just sticks in his throat. He can't bring himself to say it. So all of a sudden, the air begins growing colder as the spirit's summer was drawing to an end. And as I mentioned, now that the bodies are already brought in here and the spirit's summer is drawing to an end, the night is coming to a close.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting one, definitely.
Perhaps the magic is returning to those wights where they can
Yeah, because
rise.
they almost do seem like suspended in animation, like robots.
Right, because their eyes are open.
Down.
They have blue eyes. They have, like, the blood is congealed and all these traits. They're just not moving.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that might be even why they're still there, is because they killed them and then the spirit summer hit, because it's been a few days, you know.
Well, I mean, they could have been killed up with Benjen and then walked. They were approaching the wall, the spirit summer hit, and they collapsed, Yeah. So the rest of the afternoon passes for Jon as if in a dream. He couldn't say where he went, who he spoke to, or what he did. And he only knew that Ghost was with him and that he was comforted by the direwolf's presence. And he thinks that the girls don't even have that. Their wolves would have kept them safe, but Lady is dead and Nymeria lost. They are all alone.
Was that sent in the letter?
No?
Nymeria being lost and stuff, and...
yeah, I think in the letter where Bran fell.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was just a general update from Lewin.
Yeah, okay.
So, Jon heads for the common hall for supper, and Hobb ends up giving Jon an extra portion, and Jon's like,
good chunk of bread.
Hobb fucking knows. And
What
then
up, Hobb?
Jon looks around and has the Harry Potter moment as he looks around the common hall, and people are looking at him. Yeah. And so...
His friends were there, though.
His friends rallied to him. Mathar immediately says, it's a lie. And Pip joins in. We all know it's a lie. Even Gran knows it's a lie. And Sam takes Jon's hand and offers to go with him to the werewoods to pray to the old gods.
Yeah. And he knew Sam was as much a brother as Bran. Or Robb at this point, because he genuinely means
coward
it.
Is willing to go where they just found these corpses and sit with Jon while he prays for his father's safety. Like, that's a true bro.
That's what it is, and so he's just seeing how much, and they lit candles.
It's all of them, because all of them would be willing to go.
Exactly.
And yeah, they're all as much brothers as Robb and Bran.
Which is super dope.
Then they hear a laugh as sharp and cruel as a whip.
Not only a bastard, but a traitor's bastard.
Sir Alliser is just chilling with the men around him, loving life. He's right the biggest now.
Cunt on the planet.
In the blink of an eye, Jon was on the table, dagger in hand. Pip tried to grab for his leg as Jon began sprinting down the table, kicking Pip off. He kicks the bowl of stew from Sir Alliser's hands. People were shouting, but Jon Snow didn't hear them. He lunged at Sir Alliser's face, at his onyx eyes with the dagger, slashing. But Sam put himself between them. Then Pip grabbed him and jumped on his back. Gren forced the knife from his hand, and Toad grabbed him as well. So...
Can I point out who was the first one in between them?
Exactly.
Samwell Tarly
in between
put himself
them.
in between Alliser
Jon
Thorne
was lunging.
and Jon Snow, who's going to stab Alliser Thorne in the
Jon
face.
was straight up lunging.
Samwell Tarly got between them. Like,
Coward.
Yeah.
What the fuck? I mean, that's pretty straightforward. Jon hates this motherfucker, and Sir Alliser Thorne absolutely had it coming. But as we learn, Mormont did just tell him not to do anything stupid.
So Jon is locked up.
Yeah, he's marched to his quarters.
No visitors, and he's not allowed to leave until the Lord Commander has met with the high officers to decide what's to be done. Is Alliser going to be allowed in on those? Because he's one of the high officers.
Probably. But Mormont came to see him and says, I did tell you not to do anything stupid, boy. To think I had high hopes for you. And so I think Mormont's expecting death. And the only redemption is what happens here at the end. Yeah. So
they did let him have Ghost.
His friends were not allowed to see him, but the old bear did relent and allow him Ghost, so he wasn't utterly alone. And he just thinks he tells Ghost, my father is no traitor. And Ghost just turns and looks at him in silence and slumps against the wall, watching the candle flicker, thinking that I will not sleep tonight in this cold, dark cell.
And then he fell asleep.
He must have dozed, for when he awoke, his legs were stiff and cramped, and the candle had long burned out. But Ghost was on his hind legs, scrabbling at the door.
Which, if you listen to some of our early episodes, you can hear Barrack Dogdarian doing that to us.
Yep. And he got treats for it, because he doesn't get punished.
So when he got up and asked Ghost what's going on, the dire wolf turned and silently snarled out at,
Jon.
Yeah, he's fucking...
Jon thinks, has he gone mad?
Yeah, he shook.
He says, it's me, Ghost, trying to keep his voice from shaking, but
now
he's
Jon
trembling.
Is shaking violently.
And thinks, when did it get so cold?
When the spirit summer ended and the magic rose, the Wights brought the cold with them.
So Ghost backs away from the door, deep gouges where he was raking at it.
Yeah.
And Jon says, there's someone out there, isn't there? And he crouches. Ghost crouches forward. Jesus. Ghost.
You said Ghost. Ghost crouches.
And begins to back up.
There he goes. He got it. Hooray.
Yay.
So Jon opened the door.
And when he pulls it open, the creak almost makes him jump. But his guard,
I wonder if the creak sounded like Samwell Tarly saying,
no. But the guard that was guarding his door was sprawled bonelessly across the steps.
He did.
Looking up at him, even though he was lying on his stomach. His head had been twisted completely around.
To me, that almost felt like the over-the-top cheesy thing from Martin, where it's like, facing him, but his body is faced the other way.
They're eating her, and then they're gonna eat me. Anyway.
So, Jon panics.
He's freaking the fuck out. This is the Lord Commander's tower. This shit can't happen.
Yeah, there's supposed to be guards posted everywhere. There's no reason somebody could have snuck in and
I'm having a nightmare, is what he thinks. It's a fucking nightmare. So Ghost slides out the door and starts up the steps, but stops and looks back at Jon.
Who then immediately hears sounds of boots scraping on stone coming from above in the Lord Commander's chambers.
A nightmare this might be, but it was no dream. And so Jon grabs the guard's sword from its sheath, the steel making him feel a bit bolder, and he goes up the stairs, Ghost before him, probing any suspicious darkness with the point of his sword.
Then they start hearing the shriek of Mormont's bird again. Corn, corn, corn!
And Ghost just takes off.
Yeah, Jon follows up as fast as he can, and the door to Mormont's solar was already open. And he goes running in.
Ghost charges in. Jon stops in the doorway because it's pitch black in there. And yeah, he goes, who's there?
And then he sees in the back a hooded figure making its way into Mormont's sleeping chamber.
A shadow in the shadows. And so, a man shape in all black, but under the hood, its eyes shone with icy blue radiance. And Ghost leapt. Man and wolf went down together silently, rolling into chairs and tables, knocking shit over. Mormont's bird flying overhead, screaming corn.
So before we get too far, did it have a hood? Like, did this thing get dressed? Because I would imagine that Aemon was doing some tests on it. They got there in the afternoon.
That's what's...
Like,
this feels so coordinated.
Right.
This is a targeted attack.
Like, it got a hood.
It is
and
straight up going for Mormont.
Because even if it didn't, it was wearing something with a hood, I don't think it would have pulled the hood up.
This is the Lord Commander's tower, as Jon said. This thing had to go from the cell where they keep the shit in the wall, outside that, across the yard, to the tower, up the steps.
Yeah, like, what the hell?
It was on a mission to kill Mormont, like 100%. And so, yeah, they're slamming into shit. Jon felt as blind as Maester Aemon.
So he grabs a hold of the curtains and wrenches them open to let the moonlight stream in, light up, and he sees swollen dark fingers closing on the throat of his wolf. Jon jumps forward, and since Ghost can't break free, he cuts one of the arms off with the sword he's got.
Yeah, cuts through flesh and bone, yet the sound was wrong somehow.
Yeah, and there's immediately a gross smell, and he sees the hand wriggling around on the floor, just flopping all over the place.
The smell that engulfed him was so queer and cold, he almost gagged. And Ghost pulls free of the other hand and crept away, tongue lolling out of his mouth. The hooded man lifted his pale face, and Jon slashed at it without hesitation, laying him open to the bone, taking half of his nose, Tyrion, opening a gash under those eyes like blue stars burning. And Jon thinks that, I know that face, Othor. And he reels back, fucking lose it. He's dead. Yeah. He's dead.
Jon
what the fuck? I saw it.
Yeah. His voice gone shrill.
And then the worst possible fucking thing, he feels scrabbling at his ankle.
Yeah.
Looks down, and black fingers are clawing at his calf, have actually gotten through a little bit of the fabric. And so he uses his sword in revulsion to flick it the fuck off. And
Othor then slams into him, knocking him off his feet, flinging the sword away from him. And right as Jon is getting the chance to scream for help, the wight shoves its hand down his fucking throat.
Yeah, the wight jammed its black corpse fingers into Jon's mouth. Jon gags, trying to push it off, but it's way too heavy. The fingers go further, icy cold, choking him. Its face was against his own, filling his world. Frost covered its eyes, sparkling blue. Jon is still trying to break free when suddenly it's gone. The fingers are ripped from his throat, which I imagine feels just as awful as them going in. So retching, trying not to puke, and shaking.
As Ghost dragged it away.
The goodest boy.
And we remember... now, what did I say? Now remembering...
Yeah, Ghost is tearing into the thing's gut, ripping out its thing. And I thought it was interesting that the entrails, Jon... just like Arya and Bran thinks of the purple snakes.
Yeah.
But his were the black iron gross ones.
Yeah.
And so Jon remembers to see his sword, and he looks up and sees Mormont. Naked and groggy with an oil lamp. And the arm begins to crawl toward Mormont, clearly marking him as the fucking target.
And so Jon tries to yell, but he can't. I mean, he just puked up this dead man's arm, and he kicks the hand away from Mormont, like runs up, kicks that thing, takes his lamp, throws it at the curtain.
Well, before he even throws it, we get Burn, the Raven called. Burn.
Oh, right.
Burn. Who taught it Burn?
Who the fuck? Now, we can speculate all day and night that, that Mormont was talking to Aemon that night and saying, and then the men wanted to burn it, and then I told him to wait until you got to investigate, and so he got it in his head. But why would he just start shrieking it out right now?
I feel like we would have been shown the scene where the bird was taught the word. If we weren't meant to question why the fuck it speaks up saying burn right now.
Burn.
Unless someone's warging into it, essentially.
Something is telling us to... Or
something is telling Jon.
To burn.
Yeah.
Who the fuck... Like, is that... Exactly. Who is it at this point?
Yeah. Is it Three-Eyed Raven? Is it Quaithe? Is it Bran? Is it Ned Stark? Is it Rhaegar Targaryen? Is it Aerys fucking Targaryen? Is it Fagon? I don't know. But...
It's Jon. He's warging into it from right now, from the past. It's canon now.
Sure. So, then Jon remembers the drapes that he pulled down earlier, and he chucks the oil lamp into it.
And as they start burning, he reaches into the fire and grabs a fistful.
Calls Ghost back to him. Ghost, and Ghost immediately
He does have
runs
the
back.
best lookout for. He's always looking out for his pal.
Right?
That's good.
So the Wight is struggling to rise from Ghost fucking it up, and yet Jon just plunged his hand into the flames, grabbed a fistful, and whipped it at the dead man, and thinks to himself, let it burn. And then, in his head, he prayed as the cloth smothered the corpse. Please, gods, let it burn. Let it burn. Please. And that's Johnny Snow's chapter.
Yeah.
So, as we know, that hand injury will cost Jon quite dearly throughout the rest of the series.
It's going to be a lot of pain and a lot of anguish for that kid right there with the hand stuff.
But he ends up saving his own skin after trying to kill one of the high officers by protecting the Lord Commander.
Right.
And the quick thinking. I mean, no one fucking knew that fire would actually work, and apparently the Raven did, the Crow, but
thank goodness
Jon did not, and so he took a shot and he held his own against a fucking undead being. So you got an inductee?
Yeah, so I'm gonna give it to the one I initially stated when we talked about it the other day. I just want to do an honorable mention for Sir Jeremy Riker.
Yeah.
Just because he kept it real. But mine goes to Samwell Tarly, because the motherfucker's not a coward. As much as he's self-proclaimed, once again, we made a big discussion about it a few episodes back now, where we said that he's a product of his environment. What his father convinced him that he needs to be this. You aren't this. You're a failure. And it was driven into him.
Well, I mean,
so
it's
much.
and
that's not just
theme.
him, but
that's
it's
like about our world. What are these traits of masculinity, of what men are supposed to be?
Exactly. Yeah. And so he's been told his whole life, and so in order to appease, he believes it. Mm-hmm. But it's not the case. He's a badass kid.
He's brave in Samwell Tarly's
fiercely
way.
loyal.
Just like Jon said to Maester Aemon, like, he's got the things he's good at. So Sam is brave in his little Sam way.
Right.
Like, it's not
when it comes to protecting his friends.
Yeah.
Not when it comes to wanting to be a lord of the realm
or
and go
show
shooting
off and get the babes.
Right.
And, yeah.
So Samwell Tarly's mine.
Mine is going to the fucking Crow. Because
the
burn is one of the most intriguing parts of that chapter to me is why this thing is calling out a warning.
Yeah, it's funny because almost immediately after finishing the chapter and taking notes, we got in touch with each other and were like, dude, nobody said fucking burn.
Yeah.
Nobody. Which brings us into our write-in.
Yeah, we had some correspondence from the Not So Silent Sisters.
Yay, thank you for writing in again, as always.
And so, jumping right into it, they say it's interesting that George R.R. Martin makes a note of the unnaturally warm weather. Ever since I realized the others can seemingly move among people without being seen, I imagine them in the background during most scenes at the wall or north of it. So reading that it's warm almost gives me the impression that there has been an other within their group that just isn't currently present. I realize it's still technically summer, but it's still something fun to think about. I love that there's a fucking snake in the grass that they don't even know.
I agree. I think that's a cool thought.
She goes on to say that I think it's pretty fucked up that Sir Alliser Thorne has a half smile on his face when he sees Jon, knowing the terrible news that Jon is about to receive.
Agreed.
I get the dude has no taste for the green boy, but shit. And let's again add to the running theme of dangers of love. The things we love destroy us every time, lad. Remember that. A wise old bear indeed.
Yes.
How dope is it that the old bear's raven started calling burn, even though, to our knowledge, nobody said the word burn. And you had thought for a minute that maybe Mormont took the bird with him.
Yeah, I had thought about it, and so I checked around and actually looked back to see if I could find anywhere where the bird was noted or mentioned or anything like that, but I couldn't find shit, and it was pissing me off.
So we go on to their inductees. Unscepted Brandy will be inducting our favorite self-proclaimed coward, Samwell Tarly.
Woo woo!
This is the first time I finally began to appreciate him. While examining the corpses, he was able to show his value and knowledge that Jon fought so hard to make Maester Aemon see.
Absolutely, I agree. And with that, again, Unsepta Brandy will be offering her inductee for Unsepta Afton because she's busy taking care of responsibilities. Unsepta Afton, I believe, would invite goodest boy in Westeros Ghost to the sisterhood. Hugs, shout out to the direwolf for not only finding the Rangers. Oh, hugs, I said.
Hugs, shout out.
Their new glasses. That's the thing. Yeah. Huge shout out to the direwolf for not only finding the Rangers' dead bodies, but saving the fucking Lord Commander, the pet that was promised.
That's my favorite thing ever.
I love that. That's wonderful.
As always, we love that. Like Ghost was the other point where the Raven calling. It was the animals in Jon's chapter that intrigued me the most.
Yeah, absolutely.
The
and even the dogs, the horses, and their reactions and responses, which
Ghost
again brings me to why I think that the Wights were Wights at that point. So, as they always say, the Silent Sisters, thank you for writing in, sending in your inductees.
All men must die, but we are not men.
Word. That. But yes, the Spirit Summer, the Wights, I think that they were actually Wights, just kind of dropped down for the time being, re-jumped up in the thing. But those are my thoughts.
Yeah, it was a great chapter. I really like that one. I really like all the stuff north of the wall. I like the stuff with Ghost, especially the silent one.
If you like that kind of stuff, next chapter is Bran. And holy shit, do we get into some stuff there.
There's going to be a lot of stuff in it with Bran.
This is a bit of a longer episode. I'm expecting Bran to be of similar length. So hopefully you're sticking around for it. We appreciate you guys. If you have inductees of your own, write to us. We know that these socials are a little crazy. We're working on them. We promise you we are actively aware. Facebook.com/Brotherhood Podcast. We can be reached on Twitter. I'm on @MannersWithout. Zach is at Carstark92.
Yeah.
We have our Patreon at patreon.com/WithoutManners. What else do we got there? We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify,
Rate and
Google.
review if you
Rate
can.
And review. Those are so helpful.
Love you like Sansa loves Joffrey.
And we're going to start plugging some fundraising events for the Amazon rainforest, all that here soon. I just would like to do a little more research into what one we want, but in the meantime...
Yeah, because that motherfucker's still burning.
Tell people, like, get this stuff aware.
It would cover the eastern seaboard, so,
of the United States.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
We need to step some shit up here, because we are just failing as human beings.
This is our planet, man.
We're just failing as human
Oh,
beings.
our Gmail is withoutmannersbrotherhood@gmail.com. Tell us how we are not failing as human beings, and let us know your thoughts on this book series that we all love so much.
I have to pee.
Until next time, Valar de Harris.
Peace.
Hey, Zach.
Hey.
You listening to a podcast right now?
I will be.
Are you going to be doing it on your favorite app?
Well, I have a couple of them. Which one?
Well, the one I'm talking about is Podcoin, where you can listen and earn great rewards.
I'm pretty sure we have a code for that one.
We do. If you are a new user of Podcoin, you can type in Brotherhood and get 300 coins to spend on fucking cool stuff.
Sweet, like giving to charity or gift cards.
Yeah, gift cards to like
Dope.
Starbucks and Amazon and all sorts of other places.
So if you're hearing this, why haven't you already downloaded Podcoin and
started listening
Brotherhood?
Listen to us there.
And earn some coins. Do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.